Good afternoon, I had to think. Good afternoon. Okay, I'm still flying from the wonder and beauty of Black Panther and the world of Wakanda, so I'm in a very good mood. So this thing we do is call and response. So when I say good afternoon, I'd love to hear a response to know you're here. Good afternoon? Good afternoon. Thank you, Wakanda forever. Okay, I want to say hi. And I feel like there's a little bit of pressure because we're going to be talking about science and technology, and I'm in the Department of Anthropology. What could that possibly have to do with science? It's the study of humans and culture, right? But technically, I'm an archaeologist, so there's some science involved. We use numbers, we use tape measures, we use GPS devices, we map, and we have to add a lot of that up. And we're social scientists, so that's, I'm qualified. There you go. So I want to say that thank you to Carol for inviting me and reaching out to be a part of this really great, exciting movie, because it is a story that is a true story. It is a story of three women, three of many, but three particular women: Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Katherine Johnson. Katherine Johnson. These three women were employed at Langley Air Force Base, or Langley Base, and that's located right outside of Hampton, Virginia. There's a really, really old school there. It used to be called the Hampton Institute. Now it's Hampton University. There's a whole system of universities out there that are known as HBCUs. And I'm a graduate of one, excuse me. I went to Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia, above the Appomattox. I'm sorry, I guess this is New England. You don't know about anything south of the Mason-Dixon line, so sorry. Good, you're laughing, that means I have you. So I feel like I'm doing stand-up, this is amazing. So I want to say that HBCU stands for Historically Black College or University. Now, Hampton Institute was a place where mathematicians were trained. This is the era prior to and just after Jim Crow meant legal segregation, where black people and white people were not in the same schools. We were not in the same, we couldn't use the same facilities, and so on and so on. This happened, it was supposed to end in 1954-ish. However, it continued in a place like Virginia. I'm gonna give you some history. I know there's no school today, but history is all around us, and you're gonna learn a lot from this film, but it's subtle because everyday lives, we're all making history every day. Did you know that? Yeah, and some of us feel more historic than others. So there's this whole movement that happened of the need of mathematicians prior to computers. People needed to know how math worked, and math was very important to space, right? And NASA, and the idea of getting people into space. We were in competition with another country called Russia. They're in the news again. But we were in competition to get the first person into space. And we needed a lot of mathematicians that could help compute all of the details to get the rocket ships out of our atmosphere into the closest to the moon as possible, okay? And people actually did things by hand. There were no cell phones. There were no, there were no computers. And if there were computers, they were very, very large, as big as this room, right? Some of you know that, it's okay. And so what happened was, in 1941, there was a move they really needed mathematicians that were qualified to do all these complicated equations. But something else was happening in the early 1940s. There was a war going on. A lot of the men who were assumed to be the greatest mathematicians were not available. So they needed women to become mathematicians. And you know what was really ironic about this? I mentioned that HBCU before, right? HBCUs were training black teachers to go into black schools and teach, not only at the college level, but at the high school level and below. The interesting thing about that is that math and science was was entrenched in the black community at this time. And when, in the 1940s, there was a man by the name of A. Philip Randolph, who was in charge of the largest black union in the United States. He was the charge of the folks on the train that helped the train move and service the train. A. Philip Randolph was also very involved in the March on Washington, which was actually not about just dreams, it was actually about equal employment. So when he pushed this president named Roosevelt to move forward to hire or open up jobs to black people, mathematicians were needed. Hampton Institute was right there. And black women started to apply for these jobs because of the war. So in 1943 is when black women trained in the area began to apply and get these jobs. And a core of black mathematicians, at that time we were called colored, the colored computers were the ones that helped get men in space. So when I tell you, thank you. So when I tell you that this idea of STEM, right? STEM seems so, you have to be very scientific, right? You have to be very mathematical. But we're talking about a time in where math and science was not scary. Somehow, some way along the way, we're scared of science and math again, or what we are actually for the first time. But I want to talk about we're all scientists in our own way. Any of us could be scientists. And if I wasn't quite qualified, I married a scientist just in case, because if I need backup. So I do the humanities homework and he does the science and math. That's a joke, but sort of. But I want to say, the scientists in all of us, imagine if no one told you that you could not be a mathematician. What if no one told you that you could not be a scientist? Then you might actually become one. Okay? And so this book that was written by, I don't want to get her name, I have my notes here. This is why I left history. Her name is Margot Lee Shetterly. Please, she wrote the book that the film is based on. Please, if you can, the book has so much more than the movie. The movie has a lot, but the book has a whole lot as well. But she talked about growing up in Hampton, Virginia, and quotes like, there were so many scientists around her that she literally, quote, the face of science was brown, like me. She never questioned that black and brown people were not scientists and mathematicians and teachers and laborers and all the gamut of not just domestic workers, not just laborers, but actually scientists and mathematicians abounded in her community. She says, our church abounded with mathematicians. How many of you can say that? And then when it comes to this story of these women, right? She said that, she also said, I knew so many African Americans working in science, math, and engineering that I thought it's just what black folks did. What if no one told you that you couldn't be that? What if no one told you that it was hard? What if your educational system was something that told you or helped you understand that this was not scary? This was something that was attainable. And lastly, about these women are very important. What I wanted was for these women to have the grand sweeping narrative that they deserved, the kind of American history that belongs to the Wright brothers or the astronauts, to Alexander Hamilton or Martin Luther King Jr., not told as a separate history, but at the very center, the protagonists of the drama, and not just because they are black or because they are women, but because they are a part of the American epic. So I know this is Black History Month. We only got 28 days. We're almost done. It is the shortest month of the year. But it should be 365 days. but it's a part of our American story. These three women that you're going to meet in this film struggled. I want you to think about what it's like to not know where you actually can go to the bathroom and not go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh, she's talking about bathrooms. It's a very important factor in this movie. The idea that people don't want to share facilities with you for the color of your skin, not for what's in your mind. This is a very real and heart-wrenching story. But the thing that one of the actress, Taraji P. Henson, who is one of my all-time favorite actresses, but her character, when she describes her 33 years at NASA, she says, there was not a day that I did not want to be there. There was not a day that I did not feel that I was in the right place, despite all of the things that were thrown at her. And that's what I'm talking about when I say the scientist in all of us. It is amazing what we can navigate through when we love what we do. When we believe that what we are doing is going to push people into space. What we know what we're doing is going to help our country in general. And so I think that this is some of the things that I would like to introduce you and kind of settle you in, because I am an archaeologist. I believe in context. That means you don't just see one person. I see all of you, and I want you to understand why I'm trying to set you up to prepare yourself for a film that is about triumph. There's some tragedy in it, there's some struggles that are going on through it, but it's about the perseverance of women who believed in the work that they were doing. So I hope that some of you will stay and talk a little bit after the film. It's an amazing film. It's a beautiful film, but it is a film that I want you to take away and understand that maybe if you don't know about it or you've never heard about it, look into some other things that you might not know about the importance and significance of people of African descent in the United States. So I thank you, enjoy the film, and I hope to see you after. Thank you.